Welcome back. There you go. There you go.
All right. So it is 7:03. I'm going to call the meeting to order of the Capital Planning Committee. The first item on the agenda is public comment from the committee. Is there any public comment from the committee?
None for me.
Seeing none, public comment from.
Well, I don't know. It's not, but
The next item is organization of the committee. Currently, we have 3 out of the 5 here. I don't know if you want to pass this over table this for the next meeting.
yeah,
Any-
Brian, I would suggest that we pass over and stay with status quo until at least the next meeting.
I agree.
All right, so we're going to pass over that to the next meeting. Next item is review of capital planning document and rating criteria. I'll turn that over.
I missed that. You're turn it over to me.
Yes, thank you. Heather.
Okay. All right. This being the first meeting and the preliminaries before anything sent out to departments, I want to review with the committee that there's still in agreement on the categories and the rating system and everything that's been in place for the last 2 to 3 years. And I sent the forms out so you'd have a chance to review them and the categories. Didn't know if there were anything from previous years that you found that would have been more helpful in your rating projects that you wanted to add or change, or needed to be weighted differently.
Heather, did you send those previous to today or did they go up today?
They went out last week.
Okay. I think I saw the email, but I may not have opened it, so I haven't seen the documents. Honestly, I had no problem with the criteria that we had last year. The only thing I would request is that when we get to that point where we've got the list of projects, that we also have their ratings alongside those projects. It was well into the process last year before we had those ratings matched with the projects.
So something that's going to be new this year that I'm building, and this is why this is the important first step, is to automate this through a software system. And it's the same budget software system that we use for the departments when they fill out their budget requests. So I have to build it on the back end with all the rating and the categories this month before it's sent out to everyone. So I think it will make it more streamlined and actually easier for both the committee and the public viewing projects. They'll be able to upload pictures through that, as well as a description, and it will automatically tally everything as well. Okay. So if there's no changes to categories or weighting of the categories, then we'll move forward in that next step process.
Thanks. The only thing I was going to add was some of the projects, if it was a planning stage, I felt like those were weighted a little lower, that it was I think the committee had discussed that it was a concern that if it's weighted lower, then the planning part might actually not take place, but the actual event itself has a lot of weight to it.
Mm-hmm. So the different categories that the groupings of categories are effectiveness of government, effect on operating costs and revenues, and lastly, the project contributes to. So areas such as public safety, education, public health, aesthetics. we could add a category under effectiveness of government for whether this project is a preliminary step necessary for a future capital project, and rate it some, I don't know, that's just an idea I have, but Brian,
Brian,
you're
Sorry, yeah, I think that would make sense. So give it some sort of a bonus point, and not many would actually have that additional point system. I think that could work.
in effect, what that helps do is move forward the initial engineering for a project that's coming up 1, 2, or 3 years down the road in the capital plan. It starts the dialogue for the bigger project, but it funds the smaller required project in those previous years, or helps move it up the list a little bit.
Thanks. Is there anything else? Sorry, Heather?
sorry. How much weight would you want to give that in that category? So for instance, projects that are mandated by the state or federal government, those are weighted pretty heavily, like 20 points if it's a mandated project. Another category in that effectiveness of government is increases effectiveness or efficiencies, or reduces potential liabilities or threats. That's 10 points if it's yes. Is it, you're gonna weight it in that, more in that sphere, 10 additional points?
Potentially. I'm kind of curious, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but what this past capital planning, we had one of those come up where it was I feel like it was the public safety building. I would be curious where it started and then where it landed and what the comparables were, if that was a 10 or 20 point jump that needed to get it where it was.
Just looking at last year's, that was the, sorry.
Brian, while she's looking that up, one of the things that's, excuse me, kind of bouncing around in my head is that how do we weigh in on this first step without having a bit of a synopsis and idea as to whether we're going to support the project that it is the first step for? That's the only thing that is kind of working in my head right now that I haven't sorted out.
Yeah,
we
you don't want to
spend-
rush through engineering. if
Right,
it's
we
not-
spend $50,000
project
on
actually
engineering and then a project
a
that
lot of
we're
weight.
gonna do.
So the public safety building engineering design, that was, right, sorry, I'm looking at your rating. I'd have to go dig deeper on that, where that ended up as far as a number. But your priority ratings were pretty similar to where they rated number wise. And that project itself was rated 36.
And like Dave said, it could be different for each
Mhm.
project too. So maybe it's hard to give it too big of a bonus, because you might not want to do engineering for a project that you don't actually want to do. But people put in the request for engineering, but maybe the project itself is not worth it. So maybe the 10 makes more sense than say the 20, in my opinion.
The only other thing being is if we've got a 5-year or 10-year projected capital schedule, that would allow us to discuss the whole project at whatever state it's in at the time the engineering is requested. And maybe be able to make a educated decision that, yeah, that's a project that we will most likely either have to do or will move forward with, and thus, support the engineering for it. Heather, refresh my memory on over the past 2 or 3 years, we've had a number of projects that, 1 year we did the engineering, the next year we did the project, or 1 year we did the engineering and maybe it took 2 years before we actually funded the project. We fully discussed and pretty much vetted the projects before the engineering even got requested, if I remember correctly. Is that a proper statement?
There was definitely the DPW. There's been projects like the Flat Hill Road culvert project where
Right.
the engineering came obviously prior to, but it was shown on the 5-year plan as both planning 1 year and construction the next year. Similar to the Page Street culvert. That was another example. So the project itself was discussed. The engineering obviously helps figure out the more accurate cost estimate for the construction costs. So that,
I think also Northfield Road and one other a few years previous, I think we basically did the same way, if my recollection is correct. So I think it's worth trying to give the engineering requests a little bit of a bump in the year they're requested, but also be in the back of our minds that, the main project needs to be fairly well vetted before we dive into funding the first step.
I agree. And I think we had those conversations in our meetings. And I think we look at like the DPW director, he's going to have his priority list, and the engineering may be high on his priority list or low. And I think that can guide us as well.
Yep.
Any other discussion on that?
I'll just label that category a little more generically than just engineering, because it could be architectural design, landscape design, like was done for Marshall Park, master planning process, like for the master plan. So I'll try to make that a little more generic.
That sounds good.
All right, next on the item on the agenda was review of capital planning schedule.
That's just, so it's going to be a very similar schedule to last year. And so with the forms to go out.
No, red goes.
Tom, did you have anything to add? Okay.
I'm okay with that schedule, that we did last year. And as for the readings that you guys were talking about, because I didn't want to interrupt. I mean, eventually we have to decide it's more of an art than it is a science. So we can play around with the numbers, but eventually I'm not sure that it makes a whole lot of difference, because eventually we're going to all have different subjective viewpoints of these numbers.
I agree. Thank you.
So the forms, so I'll finalize on the back end for the software using our rating categories and criteria, and then send those out to departments and due back at the beginning of October. And that will give a chance for the committee to review those before starting your meetings with departments. So meeting throughout October.
Imagine what it looks like.
The beginning.
All right, I think I lost you there for a little bit after
Yes,
October.
exactly. Me too. Yeah.
Maybe frozen still. Okay, now I think we got you back. We lost you around October.
Can you hear me?
Background's coming through on Zoom also.
You're not frozen now, so I think you should be good.
Okay, so sending the forms out in the beginning September, mid-September, due back beginning October. the committee can review before calling them in for, the departments in for meetings. So meeting in October, November, and beginning in December, prioritizing and doing a final prioritization list to me by the beginning of January.
That's the same as last year, and that's fine. One request I would have is when we send these to the department heads, please, please, please have them anticipate what questions we might ask and have any kind of ancillary documentation that we need instead of us chasing them. I mean, eventually there's going to be a question we have that they'll have to answer, but some of the things were severely insufficient in their initial presentation.
I didn't kiss it, but you know.
And lastly, I guess, is the schedule. And as far as day of the week,
You can do it to the extension.
Brian, have you put any thought into what day of the week will work best for you?
For me, it's hard with, I coach volleyball in the fall, so September and the first half of October is tough. It could be any day that I could have a long night or a short night. So it's kind of rare for me that the 7 o'clock meetings are great. But if we have to do 6, we can do 6. If we have to do before a select board meeting too, it somewhat worked last year, so that could work.
I think the one thing that I've heard repeated in the last year was more people want to see this recorded and so they can rewatch the meetings.
Yes.
So knowing that and that we're on a limited capacity for meeting rooms that have that capability. I think in-person meetings are best, especially with this type of information to explain. It's harder through Zoom only. So we would have to give some consideration if it's going to be at town hall, what other meetings are going on.
If we can't, I mean, if we have it in any other place, we can just have a laptop record it, you know, on a regular video and then post it, and give it to Pack to post if we need to. I mean, so we can do that. And as far as day of the week, any day but Friday, Thursday and Friday, and Tuesdays would be before the selectmen meeting unless it's the last Tuesday of the month. So I'm pretty open except for those restrictions. So no Thursday and Friday.
Heather, how often did we meet? I don't have last year's schedule with me, but you know, as we get into the process, did we meet weekly through the prioritization process?
Yes.
Yeah. So basically late October, November, or October, November, and early December, we're gonna be meeting every
Okay,
week.
here's my last one. There we go. Too tall,
Right.
Tom.
Throwing in a meeting, special town meeting in November. We
Go.
usually miss a date.
Just trying to think, my schedule's a little later than it used to be, so. Parks Commission, I think we've been shooting for the third Wednesday of the month. Green Communities, I'm sure we're gonna have a few more meetings going into the fall, but those bounce around, so I'm not too worried about that. Well, if they're gonna be in person, even Tuesday before the select board meetings would work for me. The only thing I'm concerned about is that I do know that quite often we tried to start a meeting at 5:30 in town hall on Tuesday night. Depending on people's work schedule and how far they had to commute, if they got caught in traffic, they didn't make it for 5:30. That's why I think the later time is good, but you wouldn't be able to do that on most Tuesdays.
Yeah, Wednesdays, I'll have the school committee meetings on the first and third Wednesday as well. So I think Monday or Tuesday makes the most sense.
Building committee every other Monday.
Yeah. I feel like they're sporadic too. We'll see if that is, hopefully that's consistent, but that could be, yeah. So maybe it's still Tuesdays before select board.
That's fine with me as long as we get ready to start right on time. Yep.
Can we
I don't know
do
if you,
5
did you-
o'clock?
5 is tough, but yeah, I could try to do it.
For September and early October, it'll be challenging for me. There might be some days I'm not gonna be able to make it, but once November hits, I'm fine.
By the way, I may have been on mute before. Did you hear my comments that I asked before what to tell the department heads, or was I accidentally muted?
Yes, we did
No, we
get
have
that.
the comments.
Oh, okay, all right, thanks.
So I'm torn. I guess, Brian, your call. Do you want to try the Tuesdays to see how it works out?
I think so, as long as it's okay
Bill,
with Heather,
are you-
that we
are
can
you
get
red
the
too?
recordings.
You're up.
Yeah.
I'll talk to PAC, because they come in at 6 o'clock on Tuesdays when we have a select board meeting to do setup for that meeting. So I don't know if there would be any interference. But they're pre-set up, for going live for those meetings.
I think part of it, I would definitely want to have our meetings recorded, so if it can't happen before the select board, then we can look into other
Mom has
dates
got this all sewed up.
where we can get the recordings done.
Right, and maybe they can just lead one into another.
Buddy, go!
Know that though.
It's like a red party going
All
on.
right,
Tommy.
Okay,
All right,
any other discussion on the meeting times?
If we're gonna do
Green,
Tuesdays, we need
Green,
5 or 5:30 at the latest.
I think we can shoot for 5 if you feel like we need more time and not going at 5:30.
I think when we get further into the process, we're gonna need longer meetings. So we may have to move off a Tuesday because I don't want to be rushed out because of the select board meeting starting at 7.
Yeah.
And that's why I think the Ritter was a good place to meet. Not up against another committee's meeting.
and hopefully, by then, actually, we may have the lower Ritter room, meeting hybrid capable. We're still waiting on some equipment for that project. But
again, there's other ways to record it anyway. We don't need like pack special material to record it.
That's why David reached out to me, and then I reached out to the town manager too. I don't know if you want to speak to that, Heather, of just recording options.
recording options as far as,
Getting the meetings recorded and on YouTube so people can watch them.
so if we met at town hall, you mean, versus Ritter? Or,
Just, I guess even if we met at Ritter too,
Yeah.
is it possible to still get it recorded and up on YouTube? Or would it have to be a virtual meeting?
No, I mean, I could bring my laptop and we can just record it.
Is there any reason why we can't just do a strictly audio recording? I mean, that could be transmitted in multiple ways also. I mean, Conscom used to do that all the time. It's strictly an audio recording. But
Yeah,
I
but
agree with you, Tom. I agree that the laptop is a simple solution.
The problem is with just audio is that we have a lot of documents being shown, and it's really kind of unfair if you can't see them. And if we do a Zoom, even if no one's remote, if we do a Zoom, we can share the screen to show documents, or we can just record from the camera everybody else in the room. So.
Nope,
So
that's no.
that's an everywhere option. We can be anywhere and meet that.
Okay. Any other discussion on the planning schedule? All right, seeing none, next item on the agenda is other business. Is there any other business? Ed, just,
Brian, if I could bring up something real quick, I think this is
Sure.
the appropriate time just to inform the rest of the committee, although 2 members are not here this evening. You're all aware of the I'll call it maneuvering that was undertaken by the Finance Committee going into a Springtown meeting. I think it's prudent for me to make you all aware that they are still pursuing their options going into
Bill, you read too?
the meeting also.
All right, Bill.
Just need to be aware of that. And, you know, I'm in a interesting position where I am the designee for the Finance Committee. So I'm reporting back to them, and I'm also bringing their desires to you. Although I don't necessarily agree with all of them, I will still be bringing the information that they request be transmitted to this committee.
That was brought to the select board last agenda next week, if anybody wants to attend.
Thank you,
Tom,
Tom.
can you repeat that?
Tom, can you repeat that again?
That issue was brought up to the select board yesterday, and it will be on the agenda for next week, next Tuesday, that discussion, because they've requested access to town council to write a bylaw that allows town meeting to basically line veto any particular item on the capital plan.
Okay, thank you. I didn't see that entire meeting. Thanks.
Tom, it wasn't planned to be on the agenda for next week. The board basically said the finance committee could have access to town council.
Right, but we have to vote on it, and an issue has been raised questioning our ability to discuss it last week. So it has to, yesterday. So it has to be on the agenda next week.
Okay, thank you.
You can talk to Michael Ray. You can talk to Michael Ray, Heather, just to be sure, but that is my understanding.
Thanks, Tom. The only other thing I had for other business was just minutes wise. I had received from the town looking for minutes from it was September 21st, December 6th, and January 4th. Don had sent us the minutes from January 4th. And I sent those out. I'll send those out again. We need to approve those minutes. And we did not get the minutes from either Paula or Don for September 21st or December 6th. So I don't have those minutes. I don't know if people can look through the notes, if people have documented notes for September 21st or December 6th, but we didn't have those minutes to approve.
I don't think so. We gotta measure up that.
So we'll have that on our next agenda for minutes approval.
Okay.
Repeat those dates, Brian, September 21st and December.
Yeah.
6th.
The town was looking for September 21st, 2021 and December 6th, 2021.
Okay.
Heather, based on a search I did earlier this evening, there are no minutes listed for 2022 for capital planning. I'm not sure why it didn't bring any up, but all of 2022 was blank. Just so you're aware. And I searched a couple other committees just to make sure that, you know, I wasn't having a glitch with internet or something. And those other committees did show minutes from 2022. So for some reason, they're not formally posted on the agenda and or minutes software calendar, whatever that is.
I'd also have to look back at some of the meetings we had too. We didn't have a lot of meetings.
Right. It'd be that you only had one meeting in 2022, and therefore there was no subsequent meeting to approve those.
That was
minutes.
I think it was so we didn't
Okay.
approve the
Okay,
January
that's
1st meeting
true.
minutes. And I think the next meeting we had the minutes, but never got them approved because we never had another meeting. That would be my guess.
Okay. Yep, that makes sense.
So we'll have that also as an action item for next meeting. Any other action items for next meeting? All right, seeing none, the next item on the agenda was to set meeting dates. Was there a specific date you had in mind, Heather, for our next meeting? So we could set at least the initial date, try to get all 5 of us here too.
I think we lost our quorum.
Ooh. Okay. see if he comes back.
I can,
I really just had public comment and adjourn on the last two items. Oh, here he comes. He's coming back.
There he is. He's back.
Thanks, Tom. So we're just talking about maybe setting at least one date is my thought. Heather, if you felt comfortable with that to get the initial kickoff. Or a
Perhaps,
real
end of September as the next meeting.
Yeah, end of September too. I think we could get creative on that one. I think we could go, it is going to be the fourth Monday, the fourth Tuesday, and the fourth Wednesday. So
Hey, Tom, you know what?
it's a little bit more open. I can look at my schedule too real quick.
This is, when I got the motor, I also got.
Fourth Tuesday, we're not up against the select board.
Yeah. Oh,
Last,
We couldn't go a little bit
last
later.
week, we won't have a meeting.
I will not be available Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday that week.
Red's got the point at the moment, but he doesn't. The only ball left, Tom.
I could
Brian,
zoom
let's go
in
for-
probably like
I
6, but
I
that's about it.
propose we go for the last Tuesday of September at 6 p.m.
Ooh, that's interesting. I think it's still.
That's so
Right.
good.
If you're not available the 27th,
I would have to
Uh,
zoom. I would be like an hour away and I wouldn't even be available until 6. So I wouldn't be
The
in person
27th is what day of the week?
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
I could probably potentially join by Zoom. I don't think I'll be in town. That's the only week that I think I won't be in town.
How about,
I have to check. I don't know when I'll be on the block. I don't know if it's gonna be that week or the week before, so I'd have to check it.
Could
It
try
may be the
another
week
Zoom,
before.
potentially.
how
Yeah,
about,
either way, I could probably join in June. So
how about the
Next-
19th?
the 9th, I have to look. I'm not at my home, so I can look at the schedule. So I can't say committed right now.
I could do Tuesday, the 20th.
Yeah, again, I don't know if I'm in
That would
town
be a
or
select
out.
board day. Yeah.
I can email the committee back later tonight or in the morning to tell you what days of those two. The 27th would be preferable because it's not a selectman meeting, obviously.
Brian's not available though.
Available.
Oh,
The- the-
okay.
I don't know
Gotcha.
how much you want to go into October, like October 4th. I'd be available that Tuesday, October 4th. Or Tuesday, that September 20th. I can do those.
When you do that, it's supposed to.
October I can definitely make, and September 1, I'm not sure. Like I said, I don't know when I'm going to be out of town because I'm not at my home looking at my calendar.
Heather, if we meet in September, that's going to be before the department heads are due to report back. Is that, do I have my note correct?
Correct.
So
Thank you, thank you, thank
what
you.
would we have, what do you foresee we need to discuss before they come, that information comes back to us? Do we have any business that really is pressing?
No, maybe the only thing that would, yeah, I would say no, because we're not gonna, the capital planning committee wouldn't be, there wouldn't be anything on the special town meeting where there's potential articles, that I can think of.
How about update on the past capital projects and stuff like that? Do we usually do that
Right.
early on?
That could be an agenda topic.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just trying to balance whether we really need one in September. If we did one in September, I think we could make it really short, but get some of the, the yearly review work out of the way real quick. And then when we get into October, then we dive into the nitty gritty of the next list of projects.
I'm fine with waiting too. I was just kind of throwing it out there, but it kind of makes sense to wait. We can check Tom's schedule and then the other two members' schedule too. Tom, did you have anything to add to this? You were on mute. All right, seeing none. Is there any public comment from the public?
So what are we gonna do on a date here? I just would like to be a little bit more understanding of where we're at. I mean, I'm leaning towards requesting a meeting on September 19th. At whatever time works for you guys. I can make any time work. Just
I
for
can't
me.
meet on the 19th.
Yeah,
The
to answer your
20th?
question, Brian, as I said, I don't know what my week is on the week of the 19th or the 26th. So I can't answer that until I get home. So I don't, and all
I
the
think
other
we should
dates are
wait.
fine.
Yeah, let's wait. I'll get a consensus from the committee. I can work with Heather on that too and get a consensus so we can at least have a majority of us there and even try to get both of those guys there as well as Tom and myself.
And I think
Dave,
if
if you
we're
have
gonna
any concerns.
reorganize, we need to do that before we get into the discussion of projects.
And it would be good to have everybody there.
Yeah, I think the most critical part is to make sure we get a meeting with everybody there. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll figure out what date works and we'll get that out to everybody. We'll get that as soon as we can. Any other discussion on that? All right, seeing none, next item agenda is public comment from the public. Any public comment from the public? Seeing none, any public comment from the committee? I'll look for a motion to adjourn then.
So moved.
Thank
Second,
you. Is there a second? All right, roll call vote. Mr. Alonso,
Aye.
Mr. Passios,
I
and an aye for myself. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Good night.